start with a slide of the beautiful location that we're lucky to live and work in. Ko Kareoi te maunga, ko Whangaroa te moana. So you can see Mount Kareoi there, and the harbour, some of the harbour, not all of it, and the small township of Raglan, or Whangaroa, as it's been called more often recently. And I don't think you can see our site, but it's, oh yes, you should be able to see our site. Our site is on the flanks of the mountain there, just slightly outside of town. And for those of you, some of you have visited Xtreme Waste and interacted with us before, but for those that haven't, I just wanted to let you know that we were formed by the Raglan community about 23 years ago. We consider ourselves a more than profit community enterprise, and we're all about turning the negative of waste into multiple benefits. And we're always looking for positive solutions to what's perceived as environmental and economic and cultural problems. And so, yes, what are we doing in the organic space at Xtreme? Well, we've actually been diverting organic material for 20 years. It was part of our core business at the beginning. One of our kaumātua who worked with us at the beginning, he set up garden waste composting at Xtreme. And also in the 23 years that we've been operating, we've worked on home composting education, like and workshops, and encouraging people at home. When we did 2 years of trials for food scraps collections and composting options. We've been operating our curbside collection and composting for 5 years. And why are we doing this? Because we recognised right from the beginning that organic material is such a valuable resource that can be used locally to grow food, create jobs, improve our soils, help address climate change, and create a circular economy in Whangaroa Raglan. This is a little graphic that we developed to report back to community. It's a little bit out of date, but it just gives you an idea of how we communicate what we're doing. And we've, right from the beginning, we've talked about circularity and how things fit together, that, you know, we're not about increasing food scraps, we're about minimizing food waste as well. So some of the features of our site, you can see the photograph. Can you see the photograph? Everything clear? Yeah, so that's our organic site. It's quite close to the service road, so that the road with the truck on is a public road, and then the road passing by the site is the service road, which then leads on down to the main resource recovery centre. So we're slightly separate. We're on about a hectare of land altogether on a district council reserve. Yeah, we are part of the resource recovery centre and the community enterprise. We're not separate. The infrastructure that we have up there is, when I say up, it's slightly up the road. It's not really up. We have a concrete horizontal composting unit, which you can see is a sort of long box-like structure, and it has sliding roofs and internal and captured drainage. So it's quite a nice controlled environment for composting. it's concrete, very sturdy concrete, cast concrete walls. That has a concrete working surface in front of it, and then we have an additional work area, which is a sea freight container with a big lean-to roof, and the whole site is contoured and managed for drainage, so that we can keep our site as freely draining as we can, despite the weather. The equipment that we use is what I have access to all the time, is 3-ton excavator, a mulcher, a bag stitcher, a bagging hopper, a rotating drum sieve, a very old antique roads quarry piece of quarry equipment, but it does a really good job. Compost covers, a generator, and a sump pump for managing the drainage. So those are all things that stay up on the organic site. And then we have shared with the main Xtreme Zero Waste operation, we have trucks at our, not completely at our disposal, but sometimes, a forklift, and recently a tractor with a front end loader. Our nearest neighbour is 500 metres away. These are just some of the things. We have a resource consent which is specific to the activities at that area that you can see in the photo, and but the consent is actually held by Waikato District Council, not by Xtreme Zero Waste. Another feature of our program is that we've strongly promoted that home composting and food minimisation can be promoted alongside the food waste collection, and they can be complementary, so they can work together to achieve maximum diversion. Our food waste collection is rated at $1.75 a week, and we feel that it is an equitable service that is available to everyone in town. So that's one of the good things about having it rated. I haven't presented a lot of information about the food waste collection, but you're welcome to ask me questions, because that's quite a big operation on its own, and that is managed by the main site staff. But I do interface with the collections, and I know I help to roll out the collection, so I'm very familiar with how it works. But just to say that our collection distance is no more than 7 kilometres, so we're not moving food waste very far to get it to the site. We consider it a medium scale community composting setup. So how did we arrive at this development? It was a very slow process. We had 23 years to arrive. Before 2012, since we occupied the site around about the year 2000, we diverted the green waste, and we were aware that there was food waste in the waste stream. And so as I said, we did a lot of composting education and worm farm education, and community gardens activities, but we still found there was around 35% of our waste stream was still food waste at that time. So we weren't getting consistent home composting. So we started to look at the idea of setting up a large hub to divert the food waste to, and make a really good product. If we could make a really good product that would satisfy our market need, because we did a bit of market research and consultation, and we found that there was a really good demand for compost products to grow food. There's quite a strong gardening tradition in Raglan. A lot of people do grow their own food, and they did want to increase their access to compost. And some people, there's emerging larger food growers as well. So that was one of the drivers for us to actually develop a big hub. We are far away out on the coast, the west coast, far away from other facilities. So we wouldn't even dream of taking it over the hill into the Waikato. Yeah, and so we progressed to with research and consultation. We tried to design a system that worked for our community and the socio-economic kind of makeup of the community and the local geography. So what do we make up there? We make what we call our superfood compost, which is made with food scraps and garden waste. And you can see a little glimpse there into the horizontal composting unit, with the digger turning the piles along the trough. And that process is a hot one, a thermophilic hot compost, and it takes about 4 months to move it through the composter, and also another 4 weeks within that 4 month. So it's 12 weeks in the composter and 4 weeks maturing outside at ambient temperature. Alongside, on the same site, we also just make a garden waste only compost, which is a lot slower process, a cooler temperature, and predominantly fungal, strongly fungal process. It doesn't have a long hot process, and it takes about 6 to 9 months for it to mature and be ready to use. So we are, on an annual basis, we're processing about 300 cubes of garden waste, and mixing it with about 200 cubes of food scraps in a year, and that gives us about 220 cubes of compost, sieved compost, and about 30 cubes of coarser mulch material. That's really useful, really good product for gardens. And at the moment, a lot of our sales are bagged sales, but the carbon compost, we probably receive about 500 cubes of garden material per year. And the way that we process that is by working with a company called All Terrain Shipping, who have a big mulching machine, and it takes them 4 hours to process between 250 and 350 cubes. So it's a short visit, a really great product, a good consistency at what comes out of their machine. It's quite fine, and it works really well, without going into too much detail about how that carbon compost works. But it's definitely, the chipping part does help to get a very usable product at the end. So annually we can make about 300 cubes of that, and some of it is turned into another product which we make, which is a 50-50 mix of the superfood and the carbon compost mixed together. And that produces a beautiful balanced growing medium for average gardens, and that's our biggest selling product. So we make about 120 cubes of that per year. No, sorry, we make 190, beg your pardon, by mixing those together. We put it through the sieve again, and that's how we end up with another secondary product as well at the back of the sieve. And where does all the compost go that we make? Most of it at the moment is, well, it's all sold locally. The bag product gives us the best return for our effort. It's a little bit more labour intensive to do that, but actually people really like the product in bags because Raglan's quite hilly and they quite like the convenience of bags and being able to wheelbarrow them to their gardens. The good thing is that we take the bags back and refill them. So we have a container return scheme for the bags, which is really popular. So we don't have to buy new bags all the time. We make donations to local community projects, such as there's a couple of community gardens, schools, kindergarten, kohanga reo, homeschool groups, and marae. And we do bulk deliveries in spring and autumn, especially the carbon compost, the one that's made with the green waste, which we tend to have a lot of that, big piles. Just a quick glimpse at the costs. Again, quite a broad brushed, and some of these prices I've tried to kind of inflation adjust them, but we set up 5 years ago, so there would be some price changes. But the HCU unit and its big concrete pad in front, and its roofs and everything was would be today probably around $350,000. And it was, at the time, it was co-funded between Xtreme Zero Waste, District Council, and the Waste Minimisation Fund. Another setup cost was the consent, which would cost around $3,000, and that was actually funded by the District Council, so they applied for it and paid for that. But however, the consent application and the management plan which was submitted that was prepared by the Xtreme Waste staff. The site works in preparation for that, all that setup was by Xtreme Zero Waste, and would probably be equivalent to around $30,000 of earthworks. But we were able to do it in-house with our own staff and machinery, so that was an advantage. And then we purchased, equipment was purchased at setup time. So the mulcher was purchased by the District Council. The digger, the sieve, the bag hopper, the tractor, the pump, etc., have all been purchased by Xtreme Waste with grant money. Then the ongoing costs, the staffing, we're quite lean on our staffing. We have about 48 hours per week to operate that site. So receive the food waste, mulch the mulch, move the piles around, load things up, turn things, sieve and bag. So that's how we run that. And then the admin and overheads of things like payroll, health and safety, comms, and sales support is provided by the main Xtreme Waste social enterprise. It's a charitable limited liability company. and the plant and site maintenance is probably approximate to about probably 5 hours per month. And again, we benefit from being connected with the social enterprise because the maintenance staff can do that. Quick summary of lessons learnt. Big key to the success and the development of the ongoing development of the program is comms with our community. So really frequent, lots of sharing, events, etc., social media, but also all avenues to connect with us widely with the community as we can. Other lessons: if you want people to pay for compost and buy compost, they want a consistent product that's fit for purpose. So we've always tried to make a really good product since the beginning. I think we learned a lesson early on because the compost that we made in the first few years with garden waste, we weren't very careful about how we made the compost, and we found that we couldn't always sell it because people didn't trust that it would be a good product. So yes, that leads into the fact that attention to consistently making the correct compost mix, I think, is the key to having a successful process and a really good end product. And in our case, it really helps with all the compliance with our consent conditions, and it makes us good neighbours, and it's better for the environment if we're running a good system. So yeah, that attention to the mixing and the setup at the beginning, and then everything flows through from that. Oh, a little bit more about comms. Whoops, double up there. We need more trained, qualified, and competent composters nationally. I feel that there's a lot of going to be a lot of activity. I have struggled to find staff, definitely not pre-qualified staff, but I think there's a lot of openings for people in the future with experience, and we've talked, I think Liam and Zero Waste Network have talked about how we can get more training to people, through the hubs as well. It's good to be adaptable and creative and future focused, definitely for our program. Raglan is growing rapidly. We started off 5 years ago, there was 1,800 dwellings. Now we have 2,300 dwellings. We have the extra challenge of managing with the fact that only 50% of our dwellings are not occupied all the time. So that we've learned a lot about managing our collections, etc., with that in mind, and just the whole thing of how do you get that kind of community on board with food diversion when they don't live there all the time. So I'm sure there's other communities that are like that. And these are a really random bunch of lessons. I would love to have more covered area to keep my product dry. So planning for that would be great. Future developments for us, hopefully, is some electric collection vehicles. With the growth of Raglan, we have the opportunity, and we really want to diversify our model into more diverse, with more community composting hubs to really increase that educational component again, and the community connection around the growing. And then the final point, to support more resilience in food growing, is really important. And yeah, we know from our people that compost is key. And so the more compost you can make, however you make it, whether it's through hubs or a more centralized model, the better.